It's funny actually because I mean Web3 in some ways is kind of going backwards. I mean
Hmm.
it's moving away from the platform model. Web 1 was like, we had email addresses, we had websites, people would buy stuff directly from their artists. And I mean before that, you'd buy vinyl or CDs or cassettes or whatever directly from the artist. Then kind of platforms took over like Spotify and other streaming platforms and social platforms. That was kind of Web 2, was this sort of social platform model. And now I think, everyone's realized, that was great for a while and everyone loved it and everyone jumped on the bandwagon and was like, this is awesome. We can reach a huge audience. And then the cracks started appearing, right, in the sort of in the model, and it was like, okay, this is not really fair. Like these guys are taking 60 or 70% of the value out of the ecosystem. They're controlling the algorithm. They're not giving me access to my own fans.
Hey, this is Derek with the Make It Fun Island podcast. And today I am here with Tom Norwood from Loop.Fans. And I've been researching all kinds of different cool kind of next generation platforms and very excited about Loop.Fans. So welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, really nice to be here.
Yeah. So give me, first of all, just give us just a quick overview of what Loop.Fans is, what are kind of its distinctives, what makes it unique. And then we can talk a little bit about like how you arrived at creating it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think the easiest way to think about the platform is kind of like a Web3 powered Shopify for musicians.
Okay.
So essentially, it allows musicians to create their own websites. They can brand them themselves,
Hmm.
and then they can launch NFT collections. They'll soon be able to create tokens, and I mean, really, the purpose of that is to engage with their fans, generate more revenue, and basically have kind of like a Web3 powered home on the internet.
Okay. Yeah. And obviously, those are, as you said, Web3 kind of features, which is new. And that's why I like to think of in terms of like what's coming next. Because we've had things like Bandcamp and Bandzoogle and these website kind of builders before. But what's new, I think, in terms of your platform is NFT collections, which I am a big fan of because I've made a lot of early investments in different artists. And I mean, let's say that I owned an early track of like Lady Gaga or something, right? Well, when she
Uh-huh.
blows up and I wanted to re-release that track, I have to like engage with an army of her lawyers and managers and label people, right? To
Uh-huh.
like issue that early track. And that
Uh-huh.
honors my early investment in her as an investor. And so I feel like what NFTs do for these investors or, AKA collectors, is it allows us to get a return on our investment. So I think it's a really essential part of the future of the ecosystem for music that hasn't been realized yet.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it also opens up opportunities not just for investors to be able to do that, but also for fans to be able to start kind of essentially investing in the artists that they love as well.
Yes.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a financial investment. I mean, if fans help, promote the artist, if they're creating remixes, if they're sharing it, if they're, sort of valuable community members, I guess, who are
Mhm.
really out there like promoting and sort of working on the artist's behalf, and then they're earning sort of digital assets for doing that. Then they also can benefit from any sort of upside that that artist has in the future. So I think bringing together kind of fans and artists in this way and really like helping them to co-create success, I guess, is what we're really sort of looking for. And I mean, that kind of happens already at the moment, but it just generally there's no sort of system which allows fans in particular to be able to benefit from that.
Yeah, and so that's why I was really pleased to see that you guys are entering that space for music. And OpenSea, I kind of feel like they fumbled the football here because they could have like embraced music as part of the platform and they haven't yet. It will be interesting to see if they get wise to that. Um,
I think there's
yeah.
been a lot of issues around, obviously OpenSea did get well, tried to get sued by the SEC. And so there's been, I mean, putting things like master recordings into NFTs and things like that, where they can then be seen as a security potentially because they can earn revenue from royalties.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe they've been a little bit sort of gun shy, I guess, in terms of trying to steer away from anything like that. But hopefully that's changing now. And also, I mean, OpenSea is they're open. I mean, right there,
Mhm.
they live up to their namesake. I mean, they
Yeah.
kind of do a bit of everything, so they're not really focused on any one particular niche.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I think it's important for people to understand, like, it's with the administration change here in the last, 3 months or whatever in the United States, um, or 6 months, there's been a new kind of adoption of, kind of Web3 technologies, and David Sachs is part of kinda like the crypto strategy guy in the administration, and so, uh a lot of the people involved in crypto, if you want to call it that, or blockchain technologies more generally, um, they see it as a national security issue of like they want the United States to lead in the programmability of money, and velocity of money. And it's an important part of kind of like the evolution of the internet going forward. And anyway, so I just think what you guys are doing is cool because it's very bleeding edge. Um, and I think it's just the missing piece that we haven't had. I mean, like we used to, I mean, I think this is part of the resurgence of vinyl, right? Like people love the collecting and knowing, hey, I got this rare, Japan mix or something of some album, or release. And we just we've never had that in the digital world. And it's been such a key part of the music economy for so long. And I just see it as the only next logical step in the monetization of music and putting really the pricing power back in the hands of the artist.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny actually because I mean Web3 in some ways is kind of going backwards. I mean
Hmm.
it's moving away from the platform model. Web 1 was like, we had email addresses, we had websites, people would buy stuff directly from their artists. And I mean before that, you'd buy vinyl or CDs or cassettes or whatever directly from the artist. Then kind of platforms took over like Spotify and other streaming platforms and social platforms. That was kind of Web 2,
Hmm.
was this sort of social platform model.
Yeah.
And now I think, everyone's realized, that was great for a while and everyone loved it and everyone jumped on the bandwagon and was like, this is awesome. We can reach a huge audience. And then the cracks started appearing, right, in the sort of in the model, and it was like, okay, this is not really fair. Like these guys are taking 60 or 70% of the value out of the ecosystem. They're controlling the algorithm. They're not giving me access to my own fans.
Hmm.
Like, this is not great. So now everyone's like going back again to like, okay, how do we sell direct again to our fans? How do we build our own fan database? How do we like remove reliance essentially on these platforms? So it's kind of funny that we're in some ways, we're moving forward, but it's just coming a full circle.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you are managing the data and what do artists get right when they use Loop.Fans?
Yeah, so I mean, they get access just like on Shopify or WooCommerce or any e-commerce platform.
Hmm.
You get access to any information that your customers provide you with. So if they give you their name, their email address, their phone number, their physical address, if you're shipping vinyl or
Hmm.
shipping merch or something. So all of that data is available for the artist. And then obviously they can manage that, in their own way. And it's not our data, it's theirs. I mean, it belongs to them and it's their customers, and we're not sort of trying to get to capture that for ourselves. So yeah, that's essentially how it works.
And then tell me a little bit more about what you're doing in the physical product too, because I feel like, you guys are kind of starting to now tie the physical, merchandise with the digital merchandise NFT stuff. So tell me about that.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually, because I mean, in some ways, sort of. vinyl, I guess, especially, and NFTs are quite similar because with, vinyl, you have a limited run. You might do 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever. The same with NFTs. There's a limited number per
Hmm.
collection. Even if you re-release it, there's still only a limited number in each series. The NFTs are kind of like the digital version of vinyl in some ways. And so what we're doing is we're kind of bringing the two together. We're connecting a digital experience to a physical product, and that product can be vinyl, it can be merch, or it can even be CDs, cassettes, like whatever. And then by connecting an NFT to each piece or each unit, we can then add extra content to that. So, behind the scenes videos or tracks or whatever it is that the artist wants to add. But it also provides like a certificate of authenticity, in that, hey, this is the original. And then we're also sort of starting to talk to some record factories as well about potentially putting things like, matrix numbers on chain and things like that to kind of create a bit of a database really of, all of like the record production that's going on.
Mm, very
So I
cool.
mean that's just a start really. I mean there's so much that can be done, I think, with the combination of sort of blockchain and vinyl. You could have, one record out of the um, I think Doja Cat did wanted to do something like this. Like one record comes with like a ticket to come and see me at a show in Paris or something like that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Or the people who buy this record. Something we're doing with an artist at the moment actually is if you buy the vinyl, it comes with some tokens from that artist, and then you'll later be able to use those tokens for different things. So yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of kind of interesting ways that the intersection can be explored.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I love like you know Loop.Fans is kind of just laying the groundwork for that cool future of new things that we can do together between artists and fans. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah, and so tell me a little bit more too about like what led you to this? Like, because obviously there's different competitors in the space doing different things. And so what kind of brought you to this moment and how I think you've also maybe uh, gave me a hint once over a text message of like might be expanding a little beyond music or how are you thinking about this whole space?
Yeah, so I mean, how we got here. I mean, I used to have a live music venue actually in Melbourne, in Australia, for many, many years. So I kind of witnessed firsthand, I guess, a lot of the issues experienced by musicians, especially, independent musicians. And then even running a business, a small business, realized kind of a lot of the issues with the platform model. Like, in the beginning, for example, Facebook, we used to be able to put up a post on Facebook and it would, reach our whole audience, and we could run an event and, we'd have hundreds of people there and it wouldn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
And then over time, we just paid more and more in Facebook ads and ended up it becoming unprofitable because, we were paying so much money to Facebook that to reach our own audience usually that we couldn't really run events anymore.
Yeah.
So that sort of led us down this path of, okay, there has to be a solution to this. And then in about 2017, I think I kind of got into blockchain and went like down the rabbit hole, as they say,
Yeah.
and then started experimenting with different products in that space and realized that this could be a good way really for artists, businesses, anyone to kind of, not only connect with their community, but potentially even like raise funds from their community, like a kind of equity crowdfunding model, reward their community with some sort of ownership, like some sort of digital ownership. So it was really a new way of kind of being able to build a community of fans, or,
Hmm.
of kind of fans slash investors, because at the end of the day, they become more than just, customers or fans. They actually have a stake in the project, whatever it happens to be.
Hmm.
And then I got more into the crypto space. Sorry, this is a bit of a long story, but
That's okay.
we ended up building like a decentralized exchange and an NFT marketplace.
Hmm.
On Terra, which was one of the blockchains which was really sort of big in the last bull run,
Hmm.
and that spectacularly collapsed and lost like $60 billion worth of
Yeah.
customer funds or
Well,
something.
I always remind people, just remember the Gartner hype cycle, right? It was just part of the
Right.
hype cycle. We made it through the trough of disillusionment, and now we're on the path to maturity and prosperity.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's been a
Hmm.
rough road.
Yeah.
We've been through a few of those actually, because the first one that I went through really was 2018, then this sort of 2020,
21.
22,
Yeah.
21, 22. So there's
Yeah.
been a few, been a rocky road. But so after that happened and kind of crypto crashed again, and everyone's like, "This is a scam." We
Hmm.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
We did a bit of soul searching and
Yeah.
realized, look, we want to build blockchain products because this technology is awesome and has a lot
Yeah.
of value and potential, but
Yes.
not for the crypto industry anymore. Like we want to get out of that and try to take it to the real world.
Hmm.
And kind of, I guess, having had experience in the music industry, we also ran an event at a conference, a big crypto conference in Medellin, actually in Colombia. And then for the event, we used NFTs as tickets, and you could pay for drinks at the bar with crypto, and like it was kind of like a tokenized event. And we're like, this is actually a really cool use of, blockchain technology, like in a real world sort of situation.
Yeah. Great.
Um, and that kind of led us to, I guess, start building a product for the music industry, which is, yeah, how we got to where we are now.
Well, speaking of kind of like early funding and stuff, I was just literally talking to an indie film director yesterday, and I was actually telling him about Loop.Fans. And I was like saying, hey, man, like, this idea of putting up a short or a pilot episode as an NFT that you could have a limited run on, and then, people could purchase that. And then that's the crowdfunding, right? For your first
Hmm.
round or whatever. Um, and I just think that's a super compelling model that's going to go beyond music. So, mhm,
Absolutely. I mean, it already is, right? I mean, there's already kind of like equity crowdfunding, I guess, but I
mhm.
think this model just makes that so much more flexible in that
Yeah,
because, owning equity in a private company these days is not actually that valuable because you can't, unless it's a public company that you can actually trade those shares, there's nothing really that you can do with that equity with those shares. I mean, maybe you can find a private buyer, but there's no way that you can actually sort of cash in on those. Whereas if it's an NFT or a token, it's something that you can trade publicly. So anytime you want liquidity, you can sort of trade in and out of it, and also it's so much more fractionalizable as well. We can, reduce it down to like very small fractions so you
mhm.
can earn or own tiny amounts. You don't have to sort of spend a lot of money to so yeah, I think it sort of opens up a floodgate of, investment possibilities and ownership possibilities.
Yeah. And so I mean, so in the kind of blockchain world, we call that secondary market. So if you buy an NFT and then later, as a collector, you want to resell that, hopefully at a gain, that would happen on a secondary market. So how do you see that playing out longer term for you guys? Are you thinking about that as part of your roadmap? Do you going to leave that to third parties? Like, how's that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we'll probably do it. I mean, we actually have already built a secondary market because when
Mhm.
we were building in the crypto space, we actually built an NFT, not just a launch pad, but a marketplace as well.
Mhm.
And so we have built all the software for that. We haven't relaunched it because we just don't have a need for it at the moment. We don't have
Yeah.
enough,
Collectors. Yeah. Yeah.
enough collectors, enough artists with like valuable collections.
Yeah.
But as soon as we do have, then yeah, that's something we can easily re-release and sort of tailor for our current model.
Mhm. And do you think that Loop.Fans could apply to film or other creators? And yeah.
Easily, it really, I mean, that's our long-term goal is to make it. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like a fan and community engagement platform. Um, more than just for musicians. I mean, musicians is a great place to start because
Yes.
musicians happen to have very passionate fans, and it's an industry we know and love. So, it makes sort of sense to start there. But yeah, over time, we can open it up to authors, to film creators, even to small business owners, who really want to kind of like engage and give ownership and sort of reward their community.
Well, that's great. Yeah, very
Mm.
cool. Yeah. So, and then in terms of like partnerships and things, are there certain partners that you're wanting to partner with or like come adjacent to, or how are you thinking about that space?
Yeah, yeah. At the moment, I mean, we're talking to people in the music industry, I guess,
Hmm. Hmm.
labels, obviously,
Hmm.
distributors,
Yeah.
vinyl record factories,
Hmm.
anyone in the industry who already has access to like, a number of artists, I guess, is kind of
Hmm.
our target in that terms because yeah, I mean, for them, we can provide the software and then it's a bit of a win-win for everybody.
Hmm. Okay. And then how do you sign up? Like, is it super easy?
Super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just go to our website, Loop.Fans. You can create an account. You can create a website on there for free.
Hmm.
You can launch an NFT collection on there, like, a free collection or a paid collection. It's really easy. Yeah, we've tried to make it as kind of seamless as possible because one thing that we sort of learnt early was that normal people struggle with blockchain
Hmm.
adoption.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
usually pretty confusing. There's all
Yeah.
these things like a wallet, what's that? And then I've got to pay gas fees. What are they? And
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
this thing I've got to pay these gas fees with? I don't know. It's just a mess. So we've really made the process like you wouldn't even really know you're using a blockchain platform. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's pretty simple, and we just call them like digital products, really, that you
Hmm.
can add benefits to. That's the NFTs or digital assets. You don't have to really understand kind of what's going on under the hood.
I was just thinking about like other ways you could, use this as part of your portfolio as a musician, because obviously YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, they're not going away. But I kind of think of this as like this is kind of adjacent to those things. So you may want to, I mean, do certain things on streaming. You could have early releases or just releases that are available nowhere else. Yeah, exclusives. Um, yeah, so that's kind of I think how I would be using that right now if I were an artist. And
Yeah, yeah,
mhm,
exactly. I mean, it's not supposed to be replacing other platforms at
yeah,
all. I mean,
yeah,
bigger platforms like that are great for kind of discovery, I guess. Like, if you think about a marketing funnel, they're kind of like top of funnel in terms of you reaching a wide number of people. And then we're kind of like down in the middle of the funnel and at the bottom of the funnel where you kind of, segmenting your casual listeners from kind of like your fans and then maybe your super fans and really trying to kind of, engage with those people and yeah, reward them and give them something something different from what they're finding on sort of social platforms as well.
mhm. And so I know since you guys have a website builder that's part of this, I think it's very, very cool. It's super easy to use. Um, how are you handling like custom domains? Can we hook up our own domain names to it, or how's that working?
Yeah, you can. At the moment, that's a bit of a manual process on our side.
Okay.
If people really, really want that, we can work that out for them.
Yeah.
Eventually, it'll be, you're an automated process. You'll just be able to connect the domain name and, you know, do it yourself. But yeah, there's lots of features we need to roll out still, obviously.
Hmm.
It's still a fairly new platform, but yeah,
Hmm.
definitely custom domains is one of them.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Any other intelligence you can share with us in terms of short term roadmap, or no?
Um,
Like stuff
Short-term
that's
roadmap.
imminent in the next 3 to 6 months. Like what's high on your
Yeah,
priority list?
look, I mean, one thing we're building out at the moment, which is pretty cool, we're working with an artist to build out like a kind of reward program for
Mm-hmm.
fans. So fans will be able to do things like share stories on Instagram or, like share a post on Twitter or whatever, and then earn tokens from doing that, and then use those tokens to purchase like special benefits from the artist, like a meet and greet or a VIP upgrade or something like that. So I think that's That's pretty cool. Yeah, we're excited about that because that's kind of a model which is used a lot in the Web3 space, where, community members get rewarded for marketing essentially, but that hasn't really been done, I don't think, in the music space, or not in this way. So yeah, I mean that's something, and then that obviously leads to sort of loyalty programs, in that, because that's kind of what it is. It's like a loyalty and reward program, and then we can even create a bit of an ecosystem. The idea is to create an ecosystem of kind of businesses, which maybe some of those businesses will start to accept those tokens as well as payment in return for exposure to the artists community. So I mean, that's where my heart lies, I guess, because I
Mm,
think that really bypasses the sort of social media platform model, where
yeah,
because at the moment you've got Facebook in the middle, or, Meta or
yeah,
whoever it is, TikTok, in the middle. And you've got artists on this side or people with audiences, and then you've got businesses on this side who want access to the audiences.
yeah,
But businesses have to pay for access to the audiences, to the artist audience, but the artist doesn't really get paid,
yeah.
and the business is actually paying a lot to get access to that audience. So both sides are losing,
Hmm.
and the only winner is really the social media platform, which is in the middle.
Yeah,
So this, by allowing the artist to be like, hey, I'll give you exposure to my audience, and you give my audience something which is like discounts on your, products or services, or accept my
yeah.
token, which does, good things for my ecosystem. So it's kind of like it's a new model of, I guess, digital marketing, and collaboration, between, I guess, creators and businesses who are looking for exposure.
Yeah, and this is kind of where Ticketmaster, fell down for Taylor Swift because when they were, selling tickets for her big tour, and a lot of the fans who have been most loyal to her weren't able to get tickets, and then, they had waited in line, and then they got dumped out of the line, and like, it was just a big mess. And
Uh-huh.
if they would have had a system like this, there could have been a tiered approach of like, the most valuable collectors who had bought the most albums, or, whatever it is, or been to the most events in the past, right?
Exactly.
Hold the most tokens, right?
Yep.
They're rewarded with first dibs access to ticket sales on a new tour and stuff.
Ex
And
exactly. Yeah. At
yeah,
the moment, artists don't have a way to identify them really. And even if
yeah,
they do, they don't have a way of kind of getting to them exclusively and allowing them certain exclusive access. Whereas blockchain is perfect for that. You can be like, if you own this wallet address, you can kind of whitelist. I mean, this is
yeah,
kind of getting a bit technical, but
yeah,
whitelist certain wallet address and say only those wallet addresses have access to this round of tickets.
hmm,
So if you're an early, fan, then you get that, and then you could have a kind of graded approach where it's like, okay, you guys get first access, then next batch gets this access, then, general public kind of who've never done anything for the artist, except maybe listen to them on Spotify, they kind of get last access.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it'd be a much fairer system, and obviously fans would really appreciate that because they're like, okay, that's super fair.
yeah.
And for artists as well, they're getting their most loyal fans, they're giving them the most value, which at the end of the day is what they want. So yeah, I think, yeah, definitely it's a better model.
Yeah, and the term that, I think a lot in the industry have been using now is the term super fans. And I think a lot of, industry experts have worried about, the super fan equation being too one-sided and, to benefit the artist, and there's nothing in it for the fans. Where this now rewards the fans with exclusive access, closer relationships.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I read something interesting, which was that super fans are not necessarily just the ones who are willing to spend more money,
Mm,
and
yeah.
or the ones with the most amount of money to spend even.
Yeah.
The super fans are the ones who are going to create TikTok reels out of your music, and they're going to do like, all of this sort of, they're going to tell all their friends about you, and they're going
Hmm.
to, so kind of like identifying them and rewarding them for being super fans in ways which are not necessarily just like monetary transactions, I think is also really important.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's great. This is amazing. Yeah. So I as I was investigating your platform and I'm seeing these like just the inklings of the beginnings of these things, that's where I started getting really excited. I was like, I got to get somebody from Loop.Fans on my podcast. So
Yeah. No,
yeah, so,
100%. Yeah, no, when you reached out, I was, it's really nice actually to find people who kind of get it because
mhm.
we've sort of struggled a bit in some ways because we're not really building a blockchain product. So people
Yes,
from the crypto industry don't really get what we're doing.
correct.
And it's not, and people from the music industry don't really get Web3 usually. So they're
Yeah,
kind of like, and they've just been through all these scams and hype and everything, and they're a bit
yeah,
burnt from it, I think. So they're
yeah,
like, no, that we don't want to touch that. So yeah, people who kind of really like yourself, who really sort of do see the potential, I think is, it's exciting to find that they do exist. Yeah,
yeah.
we're not the only crazy ones in the on the planet.
Well, yeah, and the thing is too, I think a lot of businesses too, that launch into the music space, discount the ability to reach indies as the core part of their business plan because you never know who's going to be the next blow up on
Right.
TikTok or whatever. And it's kind of funny. So my story here recently is I was watching the Apple live stream on Monday for their developers conference, and suddenly an artist starts performing. A guy named Alan Stone. Well, I found Alan Stone when he was 18 on MySpace 20 years ago, and I made his first album right behind me in the
Wow.
studio.
Okay.
And
There you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so you never know who's going to sign up for your platform, right? And then suddenly, they're on the Apple live stream in a few
Uh-huh.
years or whatever. And
Yeah. Pity you didn't have an NFT of his.
well, yeah, exactly, precisely.
Might be worth.
Yeah, and so I
Uh,
have I have several artists like that I've helped launch.
right.
A shout
Yeah.
out to Mr. Talkbox, Byron Chambers, who he actually won 5 Grammys with Bruno Mars as the sound of 24K Magic, and I invested early in his career as well. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I'm like I would have loved to have Loop.Fans 20 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
we actually were talking to SoundCloud for a while, and
Mhm.
it's really, really disappointing actually that they didn't kind of ever do a pilot with us or something like that, because SoundCloud would be the perfect
Yeah.
platform for that. You've got all these indie
Yes.
artists, you've got people discovering them, people supporting them. If people could buy their NFTs on there, and then if the artists like, Billie Eilish was found on there, like a bunch of amazing artists have been sort of, grown out of SoundCloud. And that if early supporters could own their NFTs, and then that would actually, in my mind, be a perfect model. But anyway, I guess they didn't see it, or they haven't seen it. So
Yeah, and the other thing too, kind of going back to what you said earlier about, the crypto space not understanding you in the music business, not understanding you either, is like I feel like there is this kind of contingent in the music space where they go, oh, blockchain doesn't really solve any problems for us. Um, and the music industry is never going to move to blockchain, blah, blah, blah. And my answer to that is innovation never happens from entrenched players, right? It's
uh,
it's it's always the people who are hungry on the outside and the indies that we don't know yet who are going to bring the innovation and radical change. Um,
exactly. Yeah. Well, I
yeah,
mean, entrenched players don't have anything to benefit. They're benefiting from the
yeah,
inequality in the system, right? They love the
exactly.
unequal system as it is. They don't want to change that, and they don't want to make things more transparent or fair or anything else. And I mean, people who think the blockchain won't change it, but at the same time complain about why does it take me so long to get my royalties? I don't even know how many, what I'm owed by like Universal or by Spotify or by whatever. Like, there's no
Mhm.
transparency in that chain. I mean, these are things that blockchain can solve, like that. So, I
Yes.
mean, yeah. Look, hopefully, over time, those people will be proven wrong, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
So, all right. Well, everybody, yeah, definitely go out, check out Loop.Fans on the web. What are your handles on social media?
On Twitter, it's just Loop.Fans. On Instagram, it's Loop.Fans. And in LinkedIn, I think you can just type in Loop.Fans, you'll find us. Yeah, I
Okay.
can't remember what it is.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely follow on social media as well. And Yeah, looking forward to talking to you more, Tom, about the progression of the platform over time, because I know you guys are hard at work on new features, even though, and the cool thing is you have a live ship product. This is where I get excited about music tech. It's like there's so many
Hmm.
startups in the space, which is great, but like you guys have an operating, like valuable product right now that people can sign up
Mm.
for today.
Yeah, well, that's taken a while to get there, to be honest. And not only an operating product, I mean, I think it's easy to build an operating product these days, but it's hard to build an operating product which starts to get organic traction. I mean, that's the real sticking point that
Hmm.
people actually like to use, that they come back and use again, that they tell other people to use. Like getting to that point took us a few years. Yeah, it was like a few iterations of our product before we reached a point where we actually were providing enough value, I guess, to users that they were like, okay, this is cool. Yeah, we'll keep using this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well, we'll stay tuned for more and look forward to finding out some. Maybe we could talk to some artists next time who are also on the platform and been using it, and how they're taking advantage of these new like tokenized features and stuff.
that'd be fantastic. Thanks,
Yeah.
Derek.
Okay. Thanks for being on. We'll see you next time.
All right. Ciao.